going dark. We know this from just coding. Like, continuous builds, continuous delivery is really important because, people will all of a sudden, well, what happened to Fred? Fred hadn't checked in code in like, a week. And then when code gets checked in, it's a mess, or whatever. And so this is what happened with that team that decided one day that the room was too noisy and they go off to the other room and they come back, and all of a sudden, when they came back 2 or 3 days later, we're really excited. We got this idea, and of course, it's like we're like, okay, they're delivering this to us. They're delivering this to us, and they end up doing it as like a presentation. So it feels like they're dispensing their stuff to us, and of course, what do? We all have a natural reaction. Well, you can't do that because blah blah blah, right? As soon as you put the person in the delivery mode, they're going to either accept the delivery or reject the delivery, right? And they're going to be saying probably no a lot more. But if you're like, okay, here's the problem we're trying to solve. Here's one of our ideas. It's a totally different way to kind of pitch it, and then you get everybody sort of involved. One of the problems, and this gets back to what you were talking about, was how polished or finished something looks. So when you put it on this projector and you're in this big room and you got this gigantic projector and it's doing the whole wall, it looks pretty official. But when they're just sketching on the whiteboard, there's nothing official about it. It's like, I can erase it, right? But if it's been put together in a presentation, it's a totally different mindset. And so it's really interesting for that. So we had a little come to Jesus, come to Krishna, come to Muhammad, meeting, whatever you pick your favorite deity. We had a meeting to get everybody back on the same page. And that's when we developed that cadence, we put on the wall. That one we had the weekly thing, because people were losing sight of working together and what our deliveries were, and we started getting to where we had just touch points throughout the day, and got people talking again. And part of this was we had some new people who had joined the team too. So there's like this combination of the newcomer and everything else. But this is something these are all these anti-patterns and things. You're in your team, you're working together, you watch for these little things to happen, and you'll see them happen. Because what happens is when you're working in this lean UX manner, you've really amped up the dial. You're now sort of living together in a lot of ways. And, like a roommate or something you get pretty annoyed with, the guy who like hums all the time in the room or whatever, the change of cadence. So you saw that thing I talked about, the 1 week cycle. Well, at some point we went from 1 week to 2 weeks because we could only accept so much change in the Agile stream, and we also learned enough that now we were starting to back off and say, okay, let's just test some ideas as we go forward. But they're a little later cycle ideas, and we also don't want to keep overwhelming the usability lab because there's other people trying to get into it too and all that. So we switched to a 2 week cadence. We immediately became almost a completely non-productive team. We went from just knocking stuff out all the time to where after a few days we realized we didn't have anything done for the next 2 week out. In fact, when it got time to get close to doing the usability test, the team didn't even really kind of know what it was doing. And I thought about this, and it's again, you get that working agreement, the cadence, the working together, and all of a sudden you change it. And what you really need to do, as soon as you're going to change the cadence, you get everybody together and say, hey, look, for 6 weeks, we've been marching for a weekly cycle. Now we're about to do a 2 week cycle. Let's get together and agree what a 2 week cycle looks like. We're changing our team working agreement. We're changing our cadence. How does this going to work together, and get people's input, get everybody's buy-in. Then everybody kind of knows, because as soon as you don't know what's expected of you, everybody gets frustrated, and productivity goes down, and all sort of bad things kind of happen. Have you ever seen this? Too many cooks, right? And this became a little bit of a problem once we had we had a member experience and a guest experience. We had a couple of designers on the team. They're both the same level of seniority. We had to decide, and they did a good job of this, but you had to decide at some point, okay, well, who's going to make the final decision? The design side. Who makes the final decision on the product side? Who makes the final decision on the engineering side? And we identified those, and everybody agreed to that, and then it was settled, right? And it didn't really necessarily mean we were looking at rank or anything else like that. It just was, who was the most obvious, most, invested in the project, who had the most knowledge, who we trusted their judgment, those sort of things. And then that really kind of, settled that, a lot. And then as my team got less and less involved in the day-to-day, my direct team, we would just check in, and kind of make sure on a daily basis things were going, that decisions were being made, there was nothing that didn't get stopped up or blocked or whatever, right? And then, not enough pizza. Do we have enough pizza today? Enough pizza, right? Okay, so, the old rule of the 2 pizza teams, like if your team shouldn't be any larger than 2 pizza size, so if you can't feed your team with 2 pizzas, the team's gotten too big. That's kind of like a general rule of thumb like that, Of course, it begs the question of what size the pizza is and how hungry the people are and stuff like that. For example, in Milpitas, outside of San Jose in California, there's a place called Box Pizza. I guess it's called that way because they make this gigantic pizza that fits in a box. It's like, it's bigger than 36 inches, like 36 or 40 inches, something like that. It's an enormous box of pizza. So if you had 2 of those pizzas, you'd have a pretty good size. I've joked that that's the PayPal pizza size team, right? Because we seem to bloat everything. Not a pizza. So, just keeping the team small is really important, and not getting the teams too big. And this goes back to even what Spotify was talking about, where they're talking about, having the squads and the tribes. And I think that's a kind of good way, because when you think of a squad, you don't think of really big. Tribe gets to be a little bit bigger. It's a nice way to phrase it, because it makes you think in smaller chunks, right? It's funny because there was a discussion at one event I was at, and we had some folks who were recently promoted to director, and we were celebrating that. And one of the persons who got promoted made the statement that said, I just really, really love working at PayPal, and we just completed this big project, it was rolling out the Home Depot and our point of sale stuff and all that. And the person commented that, only at PayPal could we pull together 800 people to do a project like this, And I started chuckling to myself. I thought, 800 people? My God. I know it's a complex project, but I don't want to brag about the fact that it took us 800 people to do this. How many companies that is that? 800 people. And then the person was, or was it 1,000? At that scale, you lose track of 200 people, right? You don't even know, right? It's just ridiculous. I've had these situations where in the recent, because I went from a decentralized UI engineering team, where I had 8 people and the others were all scattered in the organization, so now they all report to me. And so as I've done that, I've had to uncover what people are working on. And I'm like, wait, you don't even need to work on that. There's 15 people working on something we don't even need. We replace that with this over here. I'm finding all kinds of stuff like that. And then I have teams coming to me saying, we need, I'd forecast they need 3 or 4 people because I've already done the phase 1 of it. And I know phase 2 is not any more difficult. So 3 or 4 people should be enough for UI engineering. And they're coming back saying, no. We got 15 in that whole area. We need all 15. Why do you need 15? It's a very hard problem. What's not an answer? You know what I mean? So it's this desire just to have big teams is in the DNA of some, especially large corporations. They just want to, it's the Mythical Man Month. If you have never read that, I suggest to go back and read the Mythical Man Month. It's a great book. Big teams create more noise and confusion and everything else, so the smaller you can keep it. So we did phase 1 of that checkout. Phase 2 coming, and so we had to do a quick estimation, for the accounting stuff like that. We're still trying to fix all that, but we did this quick, estimate, and we said, we had 4, probably 3 UI engineers. So now see the overall estimate: 140 developers, 3 UI engineers, right, and 12 Scrum Masters. Just kind of like blew my mind. There's like 100 and, almost count the designers, 160 people. And I was like, we did this thing like with, 10 or 12, and now we had a lot of people. There was, probably 50 to 100 people got involved at one level or another, the payment subsystems and money and credit and all kinds of stuff like that. But this DNA to just want to have big teams is got to be anathema if you're going to do lean. You got to like try to figure out how to be as small as possible. And I think most of you get that, but you may be in big organizations where this is that.